time to check out a Stan Kraychik mystery, Book 5. Author, Grant Michaels. Publisher, St. Martin's Press, New York, 1996. Narrator, Eric Aust. Chapter 4. I returned to the Jared Ballami House via Whitehead Street, which ran parallel 1 block south of Duval. Whitehead offered vastly different sights and sounds. For where Duval was almost pure commerce, Whitehead was more residential, with more trees, more geckos, more renovated mansions. And yes, along one brief stretch, more derelicts too. In that rundown segment, even the trees and ground cover thinned out, leaving the area barren and dusty, almost desert-like. If your business acumen was so inclined, it was shrieking for development. Further down the street, back in the protective shade of luxuriant foliage, sat a small group of houses that had been rezoned for commercial use. And on the porch of one house sat a woman poised like royalty. She wore a close-fitting turban of exotically patterned silk. With one hand she languorously fanned herself, while with the other she held a cellular telephone to her ear. That hand also held a long black cigarette holder with a slender white cigarette at its end, wisely unlit. Or she might have set her fancy turban on fire. Even from where I stood, I estimated she was in her mid-50s, but well maintained, with a pale, smooth complexion that nearly glowed, even in the shade. She wore oversized tinted glasses, only half as dark as real glasses. Above her storefront hung a gargantuan t-shirt waving softly like a banner in the zephyrs from the west. The t-shirt was blazoned with colorful graphics that read, "Art to a T." The woman noticed me, and I smiled toward her. And then she ended her phone call and moaned faintly. "Are you all right?" I asked. "I am at the mercy of wolves." Uh-oh, I thought, and began to move on. "Please," she said, "talk to me. I am so alone." I wondered whether to spend a moment cheering her up. At least our exchange would be one-on-one, unlike the bullying gang of drinkers at the toolbox, or the sparring couple at the Fleming Living. She said, "It is 6 months since Peter has died, and I am in hell on earth, during all that time." "Peter," I said, though I guessed who she meant. "A true prince." She eyed my long pants and cotton shirt, then faked a drag on her unlit cigarette. "You are a tourist, yes," she said with mild contempt, and then added quickly, "I am sorry. I should not say such things. You show modesty in your attire. You may be a prince yourself. One never knows when one is addressing true royalty nowadays. You see, even I have forgotten my own breeding. It has been so long. Here there is no propriety, no majesty." "Yes," I said, "I'm sure you're right. Have a nice day." "I'm inane. You're inane." I headed onward, but she called out to me. "Did you know Peter?" I kept walking, but turned my head back to answer her. "No." It was then, not watching my step, that I felt something soft under the sole of my sneaker, something liquidy and alive, and I pulled back with a start and saw that I had stepped on a gecko. Miraculously, I hadn't squished the thing completely. It crouched there down on the sidewalk, as if caught in a freeze frame. Was it startled or dead? Its tail had broken off. Then the gecko twisted its head and looked up at me with angry reptilian eyes, as if to say, "You big stupid slob! Now look what you've done!" It flicked out its forked tongue once again, twice, testing the air for predatory energy. Sensing none, it scurried off into the grass, leaving its tail on the sidewalk to wriggle and twist and distract its attacker. Me from chasing the more succulent body, with head and viscera intact. There was not a drop of blood anywhere. "If it runs away," said the woman, "it is good luck." "For whom?" I said, retaining my own grammatical tick, even in a crisis. For both of you, she said with forced laughter. I turned to continue my walk home and almost collided head-on with a tall, handsome man. He was around 40, lean and tan, and he had as much as anyone can, given the ravages of time and gravity, maintained the chiseled looks of youth. In silver screen days, he might have been a matinee idol. More recently, that face and body would easily land him on television. He smiled and showed off the sumptuous results of modern dental technology, while sunglasses concealed any real message carried by his eyes. "Kenneth!" called the woman from the porch. "Stasia!" responded the man. Then he thrust out a big square hand to me. "I'm Ken Kimball," he said. "Stan Kraychik," I said, and shook his hand. The guy must have worked out a lot. His whole body undulated in a slinky, smooth contraction that finally ended up in his hand. I said, "You look like a movie star." "Do I?" he said with unconvincing modesty. "Where are you from?" I told him. He wasn't impressed. "How long have you been in town?" "About 24 hours, I said. "Having much fun?" "I'm here to recover from..." "Good," he cut in. "Key West is the best place for that. You'll find good community spirit here. I can give you some names." "I'm in mourning," I said bluntly. "That's even better," Ken said brightly. "We have special workshops for personal loss and re-entry into the world." It sounded like a NASA space program, and from what I'd seen so far, Lost in Space was pretty much part of the local culture. He said, "I'd like to welcome you personally to Key West." He handed me his personal card. It was a classy engraved job done on expensive stock. But what was that blob over the I and his last name? A smiley face? Meanwhile, Ken was eyeing me up and down as if to evaluate me in terms of desirability or something else, as though I was concealing the stark truth, however good or bad, under my long sleeves and pants. "How's your health?" he said. "Fine," I said defensively. "You look a little thin, and you're all covered up. I just wondered, maybe..." "I'm fine," I said. Ken softened his gaze and tried to speak directly to my heart, or to some other part of me that didn't want to hear his spiel. "If you've come to Key West to die, you made the best decision of your life." "Thanks for sharing," I said bitterly. "My pleasure," he replied. Then he shook my hand once more and put his muscles through another full-body wave. There was an odd sense of orgasm about it. The woman sitting on the porch must have tired of our sidewalk gave, because she called out again, "Kenneth!" and waved her prop, the long cigarette holder, impatiently. "Are you coming or not?" Ken took me up to the porch and introduced me to her. "The Countess Anastasia Rolaneska," he said. The name conjured a time when cosmetics were marketed with the cachet of Euro glamour instead of raw sex. "Quite a title," I said. Ken said, "You'll find a lot of that here in Key West. People don't stand on ceremony. A countess can run a t-shirt shop, and nobody questions it. It's personal fulfillment that's more important here." "T-shirts equal fulfillment." Ken told the Countess that I'd come to Key West to die. "You poor boy," she said to me. "I had no idea." "I'm not dying," I said. "Not yet, anyway. It was my lover who died." "Oh," said the woman. Ken Kimball apologized for his mistake, then added, "I'm afraid we're not giving you a very warm welcome. Even if you're mourning, you should try to enjoy yourself here. Have some fun." "I'm not looking for fun," I said. "I'm looking for answers." "Answers to what?" "Good question." Did I even know myself? "Well," I said, "for example, who killed Augusta Willitt?" "Oh!" howled the Countess. "Did you hear? They did horrible things to her with a telephone." I corrected her. "It was with a clock." Ken said, "How do you know that?" I overheard some people at the toolbox." "Already?" said Ken. I nodded. And a painting was missing, too. Ken said, "Did you hear that at the toolbox, too?" I was about to reply when the Countess pulled herself up sharply, as though she had lost her balance for a moment. Then she laughed nervously and said, "Oh, Lulu, do not tease him, Kenneth." "Either of you know about the will?" "What will?" said Ken. "Augusta's son Peter had a will, and she was contesting it." "Oh!" yelped the Countess. "How dare you talk like that? You aren't a stranger. You never knew Peter." Ken Kimball put one of his manly arms around her and cooed, "Easy, Stasia. He can't help it." Then he turned his eyes to me and said, "In the future, you might question the veracity of things you hear in a cocktail lounge." "Why?" I said. "People can lie or tell the truth anywhere, including me. For example, here's some real truth. I found Augusta's body." "You?" said Ken and the Countess together. "Yes, and I called the police. They looked at me as though I was selling snake oil." "It's true," I said. "What does your truth matter?" said the Countess. "It is not important who found her body, but who killed her." For the first time, I agreed with the woman. She went on, "And I think it was that young Tinker girl, the artist. She went in to steal the painting, and when Augusta caught her, she killed her." "Then you did know about the painting," I said. Neither person answered me. I said, "Did you also know that Adolf Doberman wanted it?" "Ah!" went the Countess. "You know her, Doberman. Too, young man? Are you with the FIB?" "FBI," corrected Ken. "No," I said. "I'm on vacation, such as it is." "Whatever," said Ken cheerily. "Let's drop this morbid topic." He turned his square-jawed face to me and smiled. "Stan," he said, "we seem to have got off to a bad start, but I have a really good feeling about you." I could almost see smiley-faced bubbles popping out of his mouth. "Life can be good here if you know the right people, and I can introduce you. I hope you'll drop by my place sometime soon. I have a nice pool." "Thanks, but I don't swim." "Then sun yourself." "My skin is too sensitive." "Use sunscreen," he insisted. "I'm allergic." "You'll never get a tan that way." "I don't want one," I said. "Then why on earth have you come to Key West?" he said with his big, expansive smile. "I've tried to tell you," I said. "Well, the invitation is open if you change your mind." The Countess interrupted us again. "Come, Kenneth, we have matters to discuss." She got up from the chair and grasped Ken's manly forearm. And then she tenderly stroked the smooth-tanned skin. Ken made polite excuses, then he bade me a fond farewell, literally. He actually said, "I bid you a fond farewell." As they walked inside, I felt the porch shake under the Countess's footsteps. So petite, yet so clumping. She may have had a title, but little regal deportment. Perhaps it was her only way of laying claim to the turf beneath her feet. After that dose of quasi-Southern hospitality, I had an urge to return to my room and hide under the blankets. I walked quickly down Whitehead Street toward Fleming. The intersection of those two streets was also the official end of Route 1, the great and infinite connector of the entire east coast of the United States. The fact was stated blandly on a standard highway marker. End US 1. It might as well have said, "End of the world." Anyone who's ever traveled along the eastern seaboard knows that Route 1 never ends. Back at the guest house, the desk clerk gave me a message to call the local police. I went up to my room to make the call. Lieutenant Sanfuentes had run a verification on me up in Boston and wanted to discuss what he called a very private matter. Then he added, "The sooner the better." We agreed to meet first thing the next morning at the police station. It couldn't have been too urgent, or he would have come and got me then and there. After that, I telephoned my best friend Nicole, the manicurist at Snip's Salon, where I worked back in Boston. I knew she'd still be at the shop. The receptionist transferred my call right away, and Nicole came on the line with a question. Any decision yet? You mean when am I coming home, doll? First that, she said. And then are you going to be reasonable and organize your life around a good day's work? As if you should know. You may be rich, Stanley, but you still need daily structure. And you need a master colorist. But, Nikki, everyone is coloring their hair from the drugstore these days. And they all need you to fix the results. So I'm to become a hair maintenance engineer? You are to put in a good day's work. Still, doll, there are plenty of good colorists in Boston. Hire one of them. The change would be good for the shop, too. New blood and all. Darling, no one else could possibly work at your station. You know that. Even when I promoted you to manager, I didn't resign your chair. Maybe you should put a small plaque in my memory. Don't talk like that, she snapped. Rafik may be gone, but you're still alive. Sometimes I wonder, doll. Don't be ridiculous. You said to yourself you have to keep going forward. For what? Old age? Loneliness? What's the alternative, Stanley? Suicide? You're being operatic. I wouldn't expect you to understand, Nikki. No one can really understand suicide except those who've already done it. That's puerile and modeling. Big words, doll. Have you been reading again? If you must indulge in idle sentiment, Stanley, then make a date to kill yourself sometime in the future. Write it down in that nice calfskin appointment book I brought you from London. Pick a date and time and write it in the book. Kill myself today, and then forget about it until the day arrives. Then see how you feel. Nikki, that's the kind of advice I give to my clients. Have you been eavesdropping? I have a right to, Nick Stanley. I own the salon. Are you eating yet? A little. It's too hot here. Try, darling. You're far too thin. The locals eye me like I'm hiding lesions under all the cotton. That's not funny. It's ironic, doll. I'm trying to keep from getting sick in the sun, and people think I'm dying. Part of me has. Stop being morbid. With death and depravity all around me, what else can I do? At least I'm not crying much anymore. Maybe I've finally run out of tears. Nicole paused before saying, It had to slow down sometime. You were right, I said, and I almost forgot. There's been a murder here. How nice for you, darling. Nice? What do you want me to say? Said Nicole. Leave that place and come home immediately? No, I protested. It's not like those other times. No involvement, I promise. Good, she said. Now, have you met anyone interesting? I met a woman who smokes the same cigarettes you do, except menthol. Nicole gasped. Well, there's no competition there. But, darling, I met a man. Nikki, you meant sexual distraction. It might help. Like when people lose a pet, sometimes it's better to replace it right away. Rafik was not a pet. A disquieting pause followed. Then Nicole said, All I meant was, with a new lover, you could focus on the future. Why wallow in unhappiness? You're right, I said blithely. Why didn't I see that all along? From now on, it's only happy faces for me. You don't have to go overboard, said Nicole. But I am an extremes doll. Yes, darling, you are an extremist, and I love you for it. Call me tomorrow, and tell me about all the interesting men you've met. Then, as usual, Nicole hung up without saying goodbye. I tried once more to start Etzel Sham's book, but I couldn't get beyond the language. Instead of projecting images from another world, he lulled me into stupor. I crawled off the bed and took another shower. Then headed out for an evening's diversion to hear Cozy Dinette at the O side. All happy faces. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.